blue eyes opened, the first thing the white-haired beauty saw was the darkness and fire clinging to the young man's body, as if seeking refuge. In it, she was mesmerized, unable to move or say a word. Lying on the ground, she watched the creepy creatures melt into thin air. A nun who was still shrouded in darkness noticed her, and as she approached the girl, the remnants of the dragon's power almost completely disappeared. The young man said that the girl was free from the control of the demon god. The girl winced in pain. All she could remember was trying to reach for the shining wings. Her words worried Anun. Are you also a victim of these wings? The girl could not understand Anun's words. All she could do is ask who the boy was. The boy's answer stunned her. A descendant of the Black Dragon and a survivor, the devourer of all the demons of the gods of the world, and the one who will destroy the incarnation of the wings. When she heard the main character's words, the girl lowered her gaze, which reading comprehension, confusion, and bewilderment. Sweat was dripping down her face, while her gazes seemed blank. After that, continuing to sit on the ground and far onto the protagonist, she confusedly asked the one what he was talking about, adding that she didn't understand what he was saying, not about the Black Dragon nor about the incarnation of wings. While the girl was talking, the guy, without any emotion on his face, continued to listen to her. Suddenly, the girl's eyes widened, and they were filled with confusion and incomprehension of what was happening. The Nina confused voices saying that she was completely lost. She immediately lost consciousness and fell to the ground. As soon as the girl fell to the ground, the lizards, hitting on the guy's shoulder, his said and looked at him, Mesa asking what had happened to her. Anun continued to look at the girl with his stern gaze, which almost never changed, and said that she was probably mentally tired of all the information he had given her. Then, looking at the girl, who continued to loom conscious, had thought about what he should do with her. At the same time, the girl was in some space which was painted in blood-red colors, splashing blood, which was covered with all the ground was running somewhere. Images unknown to her began to appear in her mind, the first of which was a sign that looked like the wings of a dragon. Despair and fear was reflected on the girl's face, who continued to run in panic into the unknown, as if trying to escape from something. Suddenly, another images surfaced in the girl's mind, which was the mystical creatures he was turning into. It was covered in darkness and gloom, which instilled fear in the girl's heart. Feeling the gaze on her, the girl continued running and looked back, looking at the one who was chasing her with despair and fear in her eyes. The mystical creature that followed her was exactly what she had turned into not so long ago. With its massive feet on the blood-stained ground, it continued to follow her as if it was not going to let her go. Suddenly, the girl caught their foot on something and stumbled. The Notvan, having the strength to put her hands in front of her to soften the blow, she fell face down on the ground, splashing the blood that covered the ground. Shivering with terror and fear, the girl struggled to rise. Her face, as well as her clothes, were completely covered in blood. With despair in her eyes, as she looked in front of her, where in the pool of blood was a reflection, but not only her, and a terrifying mystical animal's maw eyes, which frighteningly glowed bright blue light. Looking around, the girl realized that all this blood covering the ground was sheer for areas on it belonged to the mountains of corpses that lay on either side of her. The whole thing was reminiscent of hell. The girl looked at their hands, were completely covered in blood. With horror in her eyes, shaking with fear and despair, she breathing heavily in panic, tried to understand what was happening to her. But her thoughts were interrupted by a bright white light, which immediately dispersed the darkness that filled the space. This blindingly bright light belonged to a creature whose silhouette resembled an angel with two pairs of wings. The girl immediately turned around to see what had happened, as she had no idea where the light had come from. However, all she saw was someone's snow-white face with a smile on it. That smile was the last thing the girl saw. For the next moment, she woke up and opened her eyes, uncertainly squinting against the bright daylight shining in her face. She was surprised to see a girl with pink hair starring Ather, who greeted her with a smile on her face. When she saw that she was awake, as it turned out, it was no just a girl, Beauty Bunny Girl, as a pair of cute long ears grew out of her head and a fluffy tail was visible behind her. Raising her hands to the top, she, glowing with happiness, said that it seemed to her that it was very painful in the dream, and that she had a nightmare hearing the bunny girl's words. The white-haired girl wondered if what she had seen was really a dream. However, she was interrupted by a man's voices. She turned around and saw a stern-looking guy, whom she had already seen before she had blacked out. He turned to his lizard and, calling her Ruby, ordered her to start. Earning to her masters, she nodded in response. In the next moment, her eyes lit up with yellow light, while sparks of flame emerged from her mouth, which was also glowing, after which a huge pillar of flame that was not quite the size of the lizard's body burst out from its mouth. The fire immediately began to consume a large pile of something flaring up with even greater force. The silhouette of some creature appeared from the flames, its eyes shining with a bright light, as if it was trying to get out, but that was not to be for the next moment, an even more intense tour. Taflame Khan. Sumo not only him but the other corpses as well, and none continued to stare at the flaming corpses with his usual scowl. On his face, once the flames subsided, the bunny girl, with the same smile on her face, announced that the monster that had been possessed by the demon was finally finished. But no everyone shared her joy and enthusiasm. The main character, with a fierce and cold expression on his face and exuding murderous intent, looked at the bunny girl. She saw his murderous gaze, and with her usual smile praised him, saying that he had done a good job this time. But those words didn't stop, and Unhu the next moment grabbed the girl by the scruff of the neck, causing her to shriek, then lowering himself to hear eye level angrily ordered her to shut up, calling her a garbage information provider, to which she giggled softly, pointing at the white-haired girl sitting in bewilderment, irritably added that her misinformation was costing him even more this time. Then, giving the girl a bunny slap, which made her fall to the floor with a shriek, had told her in an irritated voice that their deal was done, demanding that she pay him immediately. Rising to her feet and smiling, she told him not to get so angry over nothing. Then, turning to the white-haired girl, who was low, oaking Ather with wide-open eyes in bewilderment, obviously not understanding what was going on, asked her if she could know her name. The girl answered in a not very friendly voice that her name was Nadia. Hearing this, the bunny girl excitedly replied that it was incredible and that she couldn't believe that there was another victim of the wings just like. And Nadia stared at the girl, wondering what she was talking about. But then the guy's voice interrupted their conversation, and with an annoyed look on his face, he shouted at the bunny girl and told her to stop. Tall King, what is this eternal hurry? Said the bunny girl with a smile on her face. Then she took out a gold mechanical watch on a chain with a rabbit symbol engraved on the top. The girl and her watch looked a bit like the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. With a little effort, the bunny opened the under which there was a strange mechanism when it was activated. Unexplained magical symbols appeared on the watch. In a minute, a huge abyss, both in diameter and depth, formed under the command, into which our heroes fell. Nadia could not hold back her scream of terror. Ashy Fee, Lel flying headlong, she tried to somehow catch on to the edge, or at least soften her fall. None was quite different. Not a single muscle in his body or face moved, as if he didn't care about the unexpected trip at all. The crimson lizard clung to the guy's cloak out of habit. The only one who enjoyed the fall was the rabbit girl, seeing that the ground was close. Nadia closed her eyes, expecting a collision with the ground. Nothing happened, and when she opened her eyes, she saw that she was standing on her own 2 feet. Even though she was flying upside down, the surprise of the Magica landing replaced and eclipsed the surprise of what she saw. The titanic tree spread its branches in different directions, the radiance emanating from the top of the crown, illuminating the area 4 kilometers around, and in the roots of the 100 was a rich and majestic city. Others stood nearby without showing any emotion. They probably come here. Often the girl thought. The bunny turned to the confused girl, caught their hat with his hand, and said the saying that a clever rabbit digs 3 holes at once, then shedded that she had forgotten to introduce herself and would fix it now. I'm from the largest information network on the continent, Rabbit's Foot, and I'm just Anna's informant called Whitefoot. The girl said with her usual smile, pointing to the guys, headed that they had been working together for a long time, looking at the trunk of an ancient tree. The rabbit continued to talk about it. The tree was sacred. It was called the White Lode Tree. The next thing she told us was about the city that surrounded the giant's roots. It turned out to be the largest trading city in the south. The White Paw wanted to add something else, but did not have time. Stop the girl's hout. Stop the bunny. Nadia thanked him for rescuing her from the demon's control, but she was no longer able to listen to the Foot's monologues. The girl continued, if you want to continue the conversation, answer my question. Why did you bring me to this city? Shut up and follow me. I'll show you everything. With these words, Anun silenced the girl with an expression of complete indifference. He continued on his way, entering one of the streets. The group found themselves at the city market. There were a lot of people, and it was clear from their clothes that they lived in prosperity. The cobblestones that were laid everywhere, and the stone houses and walls confirmed this. After a while, Nadia broke the silence with a question. She wondered who the man was, the winged incarnation that an unwashed hunting for. The young man replied that he was a disgusting animal who thought there was a god. The girl was not satisfied with the boy's answer and wanted to hear more details. Then the Whitefoot intervened in the conversation, telling her that avatars received their human form and powers from the gods. The winged incarnations can also give power to others, but their powers are imperfect and it is not known whether Reticible sing or a curse imperfect, the girl asked again, clearly interested in the bunny's words. Unfortunately, the conversation could not continue. A harsh "we came from the young man's mouth. The girl looked around and tensed up. She did not notice how an unhattled them into a dark alley with people in chains everywhere. Men, women, and even children were chained, and wouldn't shackled their vendors, glancing at the newcomers, sizing them. Mup, welcome to the cafe slave markets. At a Whitefoot recently, there have been more people here. The paw continued, not forge. Ting to show the girl the right ways, she continued her story. Immigrants, travelers, vagrants caught by slave hunters, and even animal spirits can all be found here. While listening to the bunny, Nadia looked around the market until her eyes were drawn to a majestic white tiger in a cage. As the group approached the massive door, Nadia looked the Whitefoot and asked what this place had to do with the incarnation of wings. With one strong kick, an ante sent their flying. Nadia's body curved and flew forcefully into the open door, after which it rolled down the stairs. For some time, the girl did not immediately realize what had happened. Leaning on the cold basement floor, she looked up and saw several people tied up. They looked exhausted and empty-eyed, without understanding anything she said. These people's sacrifices shouted on from the doorways, sacrifices to the incarnation of wings. At the top of the sacred trees, sacrificial offerings are rising above the green crown of the lotus tree. One could see the green leaves disappear, and instead hundreds of bodies with holes in them hang like garlands on the bare branches. Closing the door, the young man continued the conversation with his usual indifferent expression. You will be baited like these people so that we can catch the incarnation of wings. Nadia froze, and a cold sweat broke out on her skin as she saw the young man lock her prison and walk away. A nun was in his usual gloomy mood, and when he left the dungeon had told the bunny girl that the rest was up to her. She didn't mind at all and gladly agreed, but Nadia was not going to give up so easily, and set and wait for her fate. She made an attempt to learn more about her captors, and climbed the steps to the door. With the bars, she shouted loudly, "Wait," which attracted the attention of the bunny girl. Nadia clung to the bars in desperation and wondered if all these people imprisoned here were their work. The main character was quiet for a bit at first, but then replied that even if it was, what was she going to do about it? The girl shouted in rage at him to stop being outrageous and answer her questions. She tried to press his feelings of pity and conscience, and said that using weak and innocent people as a way to achieve her goals is, but she had no time to finish her sentence when an Unna looked at her intently and asked if she felt any guilt. Total then he turned to Goon, and lastly said that it was impossible to get revenge without getting your hands dirty. Nadia was shocked at such a heartless answer, and didn't know what to even say to that. Seeing that he was leaving, she tugged the bars and told herself that she couldn't accept it, but the bunny girl remained by the door, and seeing her despair, she said that for her it was understandable, these poor people, an event the children among all of them had already accepted their fate, and did not resist. They suspected what awaited them, but they could not even imagine what terrible things they would have to endure at the hands of the Incarnationo. Fuings, and when she imagines all that awaits them, tears come to her eyes. However, saying all this, her words did not match her motions, and it was as if she was laughing at the poor captive and mocking her. This made Nadia wrinkle her face in disgust. She didn't understand how such a cute creature on the outside could be so disgusting on the inside. Nadia answered her not to think that she could just taunt and use her as she pleased, but the bunny girl laughed and replied to her that that was exactly what a nun said, and she would have all the fun she wanted after all. Nadia's share, because of what she has done Zavar while under the control of the demon god, then has caused a massacre that has killed many people, dozens of times more than here in prison, and now it is very strange that she is worried about a few dozen lives. The girl who heard such accusations was horrified, but the bunny girl continued that even if it wasn't their intention and she wasn't in control, it didn't mean that these things never happened. Nadia's imagination conjured up horrible pictures of the piles of corpses and rivers of blood. She was leaving behind the bunny girl's aware desperation and anger, and smiled. She touched her. Armand advised her not to direct all her anger Atherand, and for they were not the reason she was here. It was all the fault of their common and identical enemy, the evil incarnation of Wings, who was atop a huge white lotus tree in the middle of the city. That's who he hated. The next day, our hero was sitting in the middle of a passage lined with stone bricks, where there were several warriors beside him, preparing their weapons for battle. Anna was also preparing for battle, and checking his armor. A bunny girl approached him and confidently addressed him, saying that she thought the said something baseless. All those in no sent victims had nothing to do with him. He ignored her assertion and asked what happened to that girl. The bunny girl replied that she had asked Nadia for her cooperation, and everything was going according to plan. At the same time, there was a procession of captives in the middle of the city. Led by guards, more like priests in armor, white cloaks, and with speaky crowns on their heads, Nadia was among the captives, all of whom were about to be sacrificed. They were led to the White Lotus Temple and escorted by the wing guards themselves. Nadia looked up into the clear sky above, her head that was displayed in her blue eyes, and didn't know if this was the last time she would see it in her life. She was led along with the rest of the captives to a huge white temple that was located in the roots of Agent Tree. This was part of their plan, or rather the offering of the victim was the starting point of their plan, to meet with the incarnation of Wings. Along with this, they completed all the preparations to hunt down the incarnation of Wings. There was a magical barrier around the White Lotus Temple that was impossible to pass through while it was active. However, during an arena battle that involved a sacrifice, the barrier would be removed for a short time at that moment. Wait, please wait. Hear me out. If you enjoy this video, how about you subscribe, like, and hit that notification button so that you will be able to be notified when I upload another video.